You're listening to What's in Store, the official Hardlines podcast series, bringing you the hottest conversations with players in the home improvement retail industry, and brought to you by Geldwen.
Welcome to another edition of What's in Store. I'm Rebecca Dumais. I'm editor of HHIQ magazine, and today with me I have Chris Parsons, who's VP of Marketing at Hale and also author of Retail Rewired. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Hey, Rebecca, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and have a great, thoughtful conversation.
Absolutely. I know you've got lots going on, and particularly with your book, Retail Rewired, which actually we had at the conference. So when you're talking about harmonized shopping, for example, what's the biggest gap that you see between an independent's online experience and what their in-store experience would be? You have a few
Yeah,
stories
well,
to share?
from the standpoint of an a pure play online player, they're always thriving to do either pop-up stores or some type of bricks and mortar connection, and they don't really have that opportunity a lot unless they do those pop-up stores or some type of collaboration. But a lot of them you will see have that mindset that they do need to still tie in the traditional shopping channel. From our legacy retail chains that have bricks and mortar and have just started over the last 20 years or so having an e-commerce presence, their biggest opportunity is they want to funnel people into channels versus allowing consumers to be able to shop how they want to shop and when they want to shop. The biggest hurdle that we put on ourselves is we start to have separate P&Ls for each of these channels or specific KPIs for each of these channels. And then when one doesn't hit those specific targets, we think it's not working. But the reality is because customers bounce between all of these channels, they'll shop online in one moment, they'll look at an email the next moment, or they'll decide to shop at a completely different store than they typically shop at because they're traveling for a visit to the cottage or something. We get so micro focused on these channels versus thinking, are we growing the overall top line? And that's the most important piece to understand is we're there where the customers need us. Therefore, we're growing our top line, we're acquiring net new customers. And it really doesn't matter which channel that they end up making that purchase in.
Hmm. Okay. Do you have any kind of like specific story that you could kind of relate it to or in your experience so far?
um, Around channel management, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sure. You want to ask that question?
Yes. Do you have any specific stories that you could share regarding channel management and your experience with your work in AI so far?
Yeah, so when it comes to channels, a lot of opportunity comes where you start to launch your e-commerce and your CFOs, your CEOs, they really start to believe in this concept that is so 20 years ago called cannibalization. And that cannibalization is a realization that when customers shop online, they could be taking stores sales away from the stores. But the reality is, if you weren't online in the moment that the customer was looking for a drill, a drill, a sofa, whatever the requirement is, if you weren't there in that digital window, that digital storefront, you would probably miss that opportunity to capture that sale of the customer. So not only would you have not cannibalized the store sale, you would have lost that to a competitor. So you're far better to be present and allow customers to shop in that specific channel, take that sale away, or even better yet, when the customer does make that purchase online, offer a bounce back program to go to store and visit the store within the next 30 days. So often when a customer goes to the store, whether it's for a BOPIS opportunity, buy online, pick up in store, or some kind of bounce back, they will spend an additional $45 when they get to the store. So don't think it as a negative and start trying to find ways to slow those sales. Embrace it and find ways to encourage that second, third, fourth trip at some of the other locations, because cannibalization, if you truly believe in that, then you're better off not even opening up a digital storefront because you're always going to be fighting that narrative.
Okay. Okay. And then what about so your argument for customers that they think in moments rather than categories? Can you break that down and explain sort of why retails or what retailers could do to act on that immediately?
So I'll take an example of my son when he was growing up. He's 18 now. However, when trying out for hockey, that tryout was happening in late or early spring. And typically, as Canadians, we're thinking about hockey as a September, October, fall kind of activity. But when you think about the moments, typically when you're trying out for hockey is when you're now upgrading the skates, you're going out and buying new sticks, you're buying new equipment. So that way your child can have a few practices in before the tryouts. All of that type of thinking is about a moment, and it's not about my son's playing hockey. I need to get a new stick for that child. So I always say consumers are thinking in moments. They're always thinking about the Thanksgiving dinner opportunity or the Christmas holiday shopping moments that they're what are they going to buy? They're not thinking, hey, I need to buy something in outdoor living or I'm going to go and shop in the barbecue section. They're saying to themselves, my barbecue went dead. I have an event coming up or I want to cook meals. It's these moments that they're recognizing and therefore they're shopping. So how do we capture customers before those moments happen? And too often you will see commercials, advertisements, flyers that are happening in those seasons. Hockey, especially, you'll see everyone's having offers that are starting in September and then the fall moment, where if they actually think back earlier, they can be capturing sales much earlier in the customer journey. And the same with barbecues. From my research, customers are researching barbecues as early as December and January, yet we don't have any barbecues in the moment because we always think that they don't buy until spring. Well, if we follow the data, that might be true because purchase history shows us that's the buying moment. But usually that's because we don't have any stock on the floor or quantities available to sell. But if we pulled those things forward and started shopping when they're starting their research and as they get through holiday season and they start to consider what items they want to buy when the nice weather comes, we could be capturing sales in those moments.
Right. Mhm. Is there a distinction or any kind of difference between why it only seems like the holiday seasons are like that? Like Halloween and Christmas are always super early now and they can overlap with each other now, but they're missing out on maybe some other areas, like you're saying, I think.
Yeah, I think they're missing out on tons of opportunities when it comes to thinking about a moment. You think about back to school and how that's a big event, and rightfully so. Everyone gets ready for the first second week of September, but think about the graduations that happen and how little attention is actually paid to graduations. And watching family members grow up, you'll see that parents are investing in gifts and, really celebrating the fact that their child has graduated from whatever level of education that they're at, and they'll go out and they'll buy and do something. So it might not be the same level of sales that a back to school brings, but if you start to think about our journeys and start to plot them differently, I think retailers can do more to stand out in specific events. And it's not so like, I don't know if you've experienced this month. It feels like Black Friday started on November 1st and has continued. And based on how the sales go, I'm sure that some retailers will extend it well into December if they're desperate. So nothing's standing out anymore because every retailer is the same. So if you understand your assortment, if you understand your customer needs and the requirements, then you can start to sell in moments and make yourself stand out as a retailer.
As you know, in our last issue, our Q4 issue of HHIQ, we published an article about yourself and the work that you've been doing in your book, and also marketingbudget.ai, which is a lot of home hardware dealers use. Have you had feedback as far as questions of people wanting follow up or hesitations around AI?
Yeah, so I've been sitting on the board for marketingbudget.ai with Raheem. Raheem started this business up about a year ago, and he's now got about 30 stores participating with his analytics. And what's great with the AI analytics is a lot of POS systems already offer some type of replenishment. Um, Insights for dealers, so they don't, if they didn't want to order their own products, they would be able to leverage some kind of recommendations. Well, what his technology does is extends it way beyond just a POS kind of replenishment and automation of ordering. He's taking pricing insights, he's taking actual physical orders at store level, understanding what the competition is doing, how often they're promoting specific items. And then from all of that data insight, he's now making recommendations to dealers on what they should be ordering in for flyer. And that is far more comprehensive. It's a really good value that he's offering to the dealers. I encourage anyone to reach out to Raheem and marketingbudget.ai to explore that further. And it doesn't even have to be dealers. Any business should be considering how they leverage AI from the standpoint. Now, what I would encourage people to do as well is if you're going to be dabbling in AI, you always have to make sure that your data is is correct, because the AI is leveraging your millions and millions of lines of data. And if that data is broken or you don't even have confidence in it, it could take you in a path that's not going to help you in the future. So always just go back, level set on your data that an AI or large language model will be looking at to ensure as close as you can to accuracy. And if there are some flaws in the data, as long as everyone knows that those baselines are there, then you can still leverage the data. It's just you would have the foresight to understand that there's going to be data that is directional versus concrete.
Mhm. And you've done obviously a lot of immersive field work from your work out in the field and writing the book. You even talk about writing event buses and watching shoppers approach, QR codes and things like that. So what have these hands-on moments taught you about that data couldn't?
I mean, data is going to always, I always say data is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If your merchant has gone out and bought 1,000 patio sets, when you look back historically to the 1,000 patio sets, you've probably sold close to 1,000 patio sets. The trick is by understanding more than just your own data, because you could have probably sold 1,500 patio sets or 2,000 patio sets, but because you bought 1,000 last year, you sold 1,000. You don't want to take a big risk as a merchant, so you're gonna order maybe 5%, 10% more, depending on how the economy is going. Or if you have the luxury of polling some of the dealers, you would probably then say, okay, maybe we'll get up to 1,500, but there's still lost opportunity of sales if you don't understand what the demand is in the marketplace or other factors. Growing communities, for example, for years Halifax was one of the fastest growing communities. So maybe instead of doing national campaigns in a market like that, or a market like Edmonton that's been growing at a faster rate, you would change the volume that you're putting into those communities. You don't kind of see that data for years afterwards, because it's happening gradually that these places are growing faster than other communities. You get that data 2 or 3 years later, you've missed the boat. So for me, when it comes to immersive retail, it's really understanding, and we fall into a really bad habit all the time of as marketers, we typically operate out of Ontario. We go outside, we drive to work, the weather's great. We think the whole country has great weather. Spring starts early, we think the rest of the Canada has spring already. So
Mhm.
for me, leveraging your associates, leveraging your regional and territory managers, understanding what's going on in those communities, and then focus groups is key. And I don't mean focus groups in the traditional sense of sitting down with customers and having some agency ask them 20 questions and giving them a gift card for those answers. Whenever you have the opportunity to visit your stores, walk your stores, you'll see a lot of retailers do this, but they frequently walk it with other retailers or other partners of theirs in the industry.
Mhm.
Why not plan a trip and walk it with 20 of your best customers. Really understand what they're looking for. Or like I did in Boston for Newegg, instead of going to a conference, I spent most of the day going from the hotel to the conference on the bus. I didn't tell any of the consumers who I was and what I represented. I just let them believe I was one of their own, a gamer. And the amount of conversations I had about why and how often they play and how long they play and some of their hurdles about not being able to spend a lot of time, unfortunately, with their partners, created some thought process that I wouldn't have had if I just went to the conference and watched everybody play video games for the day. So those kind of moments, again, have you thinking differently, and then you create different moments in your marketing because of those experiences, and you create things that are truly usable for consumers versus something that is dreamed up in an office that may not even be tangible for a consumer to use.